This is the scary story about the online game.
One night, a young boy was playing an online game
when somebody started to talk to him. The person said, "I know where you live," and started to say the kid's town and address.
The kid thought it was somebody he knew
and started to call him names. The person was getting extremely mad, and then he snapped. He said, "I'm going to kill you," in a very chilling voice.
The kid immediately turned off his game
and was a little scared. Nothing happened for a couple hours, and he started to believe the person wasn't serious.
But suddenly he heard tapping on his window.
A chill went down his spine as he walked over to the window. He opened the blinds,
and standing there was a man waving and grinning at him.
He shut the blinds and ran, but the man broke the glass and jumped into his room. He then lunged at the boy and grabbed him by his neck, and then began to strangle him.
His parents heard the glass break,
and his dad came into the room with a gun and shot the man who was choking his son. But it was too late.
His son had been strangled to death.
Creepy story about the briefcase.
One summer day in New York City,
a woman was going to a gas station.
As the attendant pumped her gas,
the woman told him that she was in a hurry because she had to pick up her daughter.
Then suddenly a well-dressed man walked over to the woman and started to talk to her.
He explained that his rental car had died and he needed a ride to get to an appointment on time. The woman said yes,
and the man then put his briefcase in the back seat of her car
and then said he was going to use the bathroom quickly. The woman then looked at her watch and suddenly began to panic. She was late to pick up her daughter.
So she quickly sped away
and totally forgot about the man she was supposed to give a ride. She thought nothing of the man again
until her and her daughter pulled into their driveway.
The woman then saw the man's briefcase and she then opened it to see if there was any form of identification in it so she could return it back to the man. But what she saw inside the briefcase made her heart skip a beat.
The only things that were in the briefcase was a roll of duct tape and a knife.
Creepy story about the pedestrian.
One evening, there was a girl standing at a pedestrian crossing waiting for the light to change.
She then looked over at the other people who were standing at the other side of the street, and a chill went down her spine. There was a woman who was standing opposite of her who looked very strange. At first, the girl thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. She could see the woman's pants and jacket clearly, but her face and hands were a complete blur.
The girl rubbed her eyes and looked again, but it made no difference.
The woman's face was fuzzy and almost see-through.
The light turned green and everybody started walking.
The woman appeared to be walking straight towards the girl.
The girl began walking across the intersection,
moving left, attempting to avoid her, but it didn't work. The woman changed direction every time she did. The girl then turned around and started walking the other way. She then looked behind her, and the woman was still following her.
The girl then got around the street corner
and looked behind her and got a sigh of relief when she realized the woman was not following her anymore.
But when she turned around to start walking again,
the creepy see-through woman was standing right in front of her
and said, "I know you see."
Scary story about the creepy clown.
There were 3 boys who loved watching scary movies.
One day, one of the boys received a package in the mail.
There was no stamp, name, or address written on it.
The boy had no idea who it was from. When he opened it, he found a DVD inside. He thought his friends were playing a joke on him, so he went over to his friend's house. When he arrived at their house, he asked them about the DVD, but they said they had nothing to do with it.
They then invited him in the house to watch it, put the disc in the DVD player, and press play.
They were surprised what they saw on the screen.
There was a creepy clown standing in a room.
There was a bed on his left and a closet on his right.
Then some weird music began playing, and the clown started to dance and jump around.
And the whole time, the clown's face
had a wide, creepy smile on it.
The clown looked like he was insane.
The 2 boys thought it was funny and started to laugh out loud
when they noticed the other boy who got the tape was very quiet. They turned to him and said, "Hey, why aren't you laughing? What's the matter with you?" The boy then replied in a very scared voice,
"That's my bedroom that the clown is in."
Scary story about the purse.
There was a girl named Cindy who was at a grocery store.
When she saw a woman wearing a purse that she really liked, Cindy then went up to the girl and said,
"Where did you get that purse?"
The girl then said, "I make them myself." Cindy thought that was so cool and asked the girl if she could make her one.
The girl told Cindy that she could show her how she makes them and to come over her house tonight so she could give her one.
Cindy happily agreed.
That night when Cindy got to the girl's house,
the girl opened the door.
She had a glass of wine waiting for Cindy.
Cindy took the wine and they began to walk around the house and talk.
A couple minutes later, Cindy began to feel lightheaded,
and she then passed out. When she woke up, she felt an immediate pain all over her body.
When she looked around, she realized that she was in an empty room
and that the whole lower half of her body had been skinned.
A couple seconds later, the girl then came into the room and said,
"I was running out of skin to make my purses, so I took yours."
"I'm sorry, but your skin was too perfect."
Scary story about the new friend.
There was a kid named Brian who just moved and started going to a new school.
His first day there, he met a kid named Jack.
As the weeks went on,
Brian and Jack became friends.
One day after school, Jack invited Brian over his house. When Brian got to Jack's house,
Jack's entire family was waiting at the door for Brian.
They were all smiling very creepy at Brian.
Brian thought this was weird and followed Jack up the stairs.
But when Brian got upstairs, Jack was nowhere to be found.
Brian then opened the first door he saw, and what he saw inside made his heart skip a beat.
Inside the room were multiple mutilated dead bodies
Of children his age. Jack then turned around and began sprinting down the stairs.
but waiting for him on the staircase was the family, who were still smiling at him.
Jack then came behind Brian and put a rag over his mouth,
When Brian woke up, he was in the same room as all the dead bodies,
with the whole family standing around him smiling. The father then said, "Dig in."
and the last thing Brian ever saw was Jack's smiling family eating him
The
alive.
creepy story about the first boyfriend.
There was a girl named Rachel who just got her first boyfriend.
She was so happy and never felt this way before in her life.
Every day she brought him over her house,
And her dad began to get annoyed because she wasn't spending that much time with him anymore. One day, Rachel's dad told her
that her boyfriend was not allowed over the house anymore,
Rachel began screaming and crying.
and ran up the stairs and went to her room.
A couple days later,
Rachel decided to sneak her boyfriend in the house one night.
when her boyfriend got to the house,
Rachel tiptoed down the stairs and let him in.
then they went to her room. About 30 minutes later, her boyfriend had to go to the bathroom. Rachel whispered to him to be quiet. After 10 minutes, her boyfriend was still not back, so she went out to see what was taking him so long. But right when she opened her door,
Her dad was standing there covered in blood.
and behind him laid her boyfriend's dead body. Her dad then looked at her with a smile on his face and said,
Nobody will ever take my little girl
"The
from
creepy
me.
story about be careful who you talk to."
There was a girl named Taylor, and she didn't have any friends,
One night she was very sad and lonely.
and decided to go on the dark web chat groups to meet new people.
She began talking to this boy who said he was 16, which was Taylor's age, so she got super excited. They spent hours talking, and the boy then wanted to hang out with Taylor. She never hung out with a boy before, so she said yes and was very happy. They made plans at 9 p.m. the next day to hang out at the park near her house.
That day, she did not hear from the boy until 8:45 p.m.
He said, "Are you still coming?" Emily responded back saying, "I'm on my way."
When she got there, she didn't see anybody.
Until a big, tall, grown man,
Came out of the dark shadows and said,
"Taylor, you are mine tonight." She then started running, but the man was way faster than her.
the man caught Taylor and stabbed her countless times until he was satisfied.
The man then took her body and was never seen again. He was never caught, and he is still on the run today.
So always be careful who you talk to.